very good afternoon, viewer, and welcome to Eswatini TV. My name is Lirato Mabilisa, and as always, I am not alone. I am with my colleague Nogwazi Dlamini, and also joining me in studio are our sign language interpreters Nompumelelo Hatebe and Tobile Fagutse. Good afternoon, Nogwazi. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good, Lerato. Good afternoon to our viewers. Like Lerato has said, I am Nogwazi Dlamini. I'm feeling okay. My injury is a bit better for those who care. But yeah, I'm okay. How are you doing?
I'm doing great today.
Oh, sorry. I was about to say something actually. I just wanted to ask if you could please remind our viewers about today's timetable.
Well, grade 7s, Form 3s, and Form 5s, I hope you are ready for today. Your timetable is looking a little bit like this. Social studies from 2 p.m. to 2:30 p.m., followed by mathematics for the Form 3s from 2:30 p.m. to 3:08 p.m., followed by literature in English for Form 3 learners again from 3:08 p.m. to 3:45 p.m. And then for the Form 5 learners, you have biology from 3:45 p.m. to 4:25 p.m. And then the last subject for today is physics from 4:25 p.m. to 5 p.m. So I hope that the grade 7s, Form 3s, and Form 5 learners are ready for another jam-packed day. Nogazi, please tell us about today's social media, actually.
As for today's social media, everyday social media, just to remind our viewers that we are live on YouTube right now. We are also live on Facebook. And if you have any questions, please feel free to use our WhatsApp number that pops up on the screen. Now, without wasting any time, it is time for the grade 7s. After the break, Lerato will be with you with Mr. Sibusiso Masego, and they're doing social studies. Grade 7s, I hope that you are ready. We'll be right back after this.
Kumelula ukuthi ligciwane lecorona lisuke kulomunye lingene kulomunye uma sitawusonzelana. Singasita sinciphise kwanza kwalo ngekuthi sikhweshelane. Lokhu kusho ukuthi singachawulani, singathinzani njengokuhagana nje. Tikhweshise ngesigaba lesiyimitha kusuka kulabanye. Kumcoka kakhulu kuhlala uhlobile nekuthi hlobisa uma uke waphumela kubantu. Ngekubambisana sitakumisa kwanza kwaleli gciwane sibe ngulabaphilile. Eswatini sibambisene kulwa nekwanza kweligciwane lecorona.
Hi viewers at home, my name is Professor Shabang. I am the presenter for your favorite health program, Better Health, Better Life. Thank you viewers at home for the calls and the messages, and thank you Eswatini TV for the great platform. Better Health, Better Life Season 4 is coming bigger and better. And now you have a chance to participate by sending a video of your view prior to the next program. On that note, we are appealing to all Emaswati, please stay at home, stop the spread so that we can save lives.
Welcome back, grade 7s. I am with Mr. Sibusiso Masego, who is going to be teaching you guys social studies, and I'm sure that you guys are going to have an interesting lesson today. Good afternoon and welcome to the show, sir.
Good afternoon, Renat. How are you?
I'm alright. So today we're learning about migration. So can you kindly inform the learner what would you like them to have learned by the end of the lesson?
Okay, by the end of the lesson, the learners should be able to differentiate between the different kinds of migration. The learners should be also be able to give reasons why people move, and also to know or understand the effects of migration.
Okay, it sounds like it's going to be a very interesting lesson, grade 7. So without wasting time, sir, please take our grade 7s through.
Thank you so much. Okay, learners at home. We're going to start about the lesson objectives. This is what you learners at home should be able to have understood by the end of this lesson. Now, we are going to define migration, migrant, immigration, and emigration. You should be able to differentiate between the different kinds of migration. You should be able to give reasons why people migrate from one place to another. You should discuss the effects of migration in areas of origin, rural areas. This is where the people originate, and also be able to discuss the effects of migration in the areas of destination. The destination is usually the urban areas. So the destination is the place where these people are going to. Okay, now let's move to the keywords. These are the keywords of the lesson. They are migration, migrant, emigration, and immigration. We are going to move to the next slide, and we are going to quickly define these words that we are going to use in this lesson. We start by migration. Migration refers to the movement of people from one place or country to another. For example, a man can move from Eswatini to work in the mines in South Africa. Another example is that a person can decide to move, let's say from Malinza and then move to the Manzini city. Now we're going to look at migrant. Migrant now is a person who moves from one place to another. For instance, Muzi living Luyengo Tumbabane. We're saying Muzi is a migrant because Muzi left or leave his original place to another place. Okay. Emigration. This is the movement of people from one country to another. Immigration is the movement of people from one country to another. A person who leaves his or her own country to live in another country is called an immigrant. Immigration. Immigration is the movement of people into another country. The movement of people into another country. A person arriving in a country is called an immigrant. When Sbusiso arrives in South Africa. So now, I'd like us to look at the two words here, from and into. When this person is leaving the area, moving to another area, and then we say that person is an immigrant. But when the person is coming in the area which the person or country which the person is arriving, then that person is called an immigrant. Okay, let us quickly move to the next slide here, which is the introduction. In the previous lesson, we learned about population growth and distribution. We learned that population distribution is how people are spread out in a particular area. This means that people do not always stay in one place or country their whole lives, but they continuously move from one place to another for different reasons, mostly survival. We also learned that there are factors that either push or pull people to an area. Therefore, this movement of people from one place or country to another is called migration. Okay, let us move to the next slides. And when you look here, we can see people from Syria. These people are migrating because there are wars in Syria there. This just shows that, but I'll come back to this slide. Now, good people, we are going to look into the types of migration. We are going to look into the types of migration. Basically, there are 4 types of migration, and we are going to look them in detail as follows. There is internal migration. What is internal migration? This is the movement of people from one place to another within the country's borders. These people are moving within the country's borders. I would like you to show you something here. Here's a map of Africa. Here's a map of Africa, and we are going to look. I am going to make an example about South Africa. Here is South Africa. Here is the country of South Africa. So when these people are moving within the country of South Africa, we're saying that is internal migration. For example, let's say the person is moving from KwaZulu-Natal to Johannesburg. We say that is internal because the person is moving within the country's borders. I hope you guys understand. Okay. Now, we are going to look at international migration. What is it? This is when people leave a country to another country as immigrants or immigrants. For example, the Mozambicans. The Mozambicans, they moved from their country, Mozambique, to Eswatini. Now, I'm also going to show the map of Africa here. Now, I'm going to make an example about Mozambique and Eswatini, of course. Okay, this is the country. This is the country of Mozambique. Mozambique. This is the country. We are saying international migration is when these people move out of the borders of Mozambique. This is Eswatini here. The people of Mozambique used the Lomasha border gate there to come to Swaziland. But for different reasons, in this case, the Mozambicans were running away from the wars. I hope you guys are getting what I'm saying. Okay. Moving forward, we're going to look into seasonal migration. Seasonal migration is the movement of people from one place to another in certain seasons. These people move in certain seasons, usually for work. For example, sugarcane cutters moving to Mhlume or Big Bend during the harvesting period. It can be either international or internal. It is common where a large-scale farming takes place, where there is a need for harvesting crops or fruits. Okay, I'm going to make an example here. You find that in Tamboti they are growing citrus fruits, and then people from different parts of Swaziland, let's say maybe Spofaneni, will move to Tamboti during the harvesting season to harvest the citrus fruits there. Okay, going forward, we're going to look into rural urban migration. This is when people move from the rural areas to the towns or cities. Let us at home. This one is simple because these people will move from the rural areas to the cities. I'll make an example about the good people about maybe, let's say, I'll make an example about my area, Mafuseni. You see, Mafuseni is a rural area in the Manzini region. People there will move to the city of Manzini most of the times for different reasons, of course. So now, good people, going forward, we're going to look into the reasons for migration, we're going to get why people migrate. So now, let's go. People migrate because of the following reasons. To look for jobs. People migrate to look for jobs or start businesses in new places with better opportunities. Of course, yes. I'm going to make an example here again about, let's say, people moving from, because in the rural areas, there are less job opportunities. There is nowhere people can work most of the times there. So that's why people decide to move in other areas where they can work. So I'll make an example about people, let's say, moving from Lavomisa. People move from Lavomisa, let's say, to Matapa for work. And then at the same time there, these people can be able to start businesses, because these places like Matapa or Manzini or the rural urban areas, I mean, sorry, the urban areas is it has got a lot of people there. I'll make an example about the airtime vendors. These people will start such businesses, or they'll make stalls, and it becomes easy in places like that, like urban areas, because there are more people there. So their business is likely to make some profits, of course. Okay, now, to enjoy a better climate somewhere else, what do we really mean about this? This is what we mean. We mean that, in some places, the climatic conditions are not good. I'm going to make an example about temperature. You find that a particular place have got, in summer it has got very, very hot temperatures, or in winter it's got very, very cold temperatures. So we find that these people will move. People will move to and prefer to live in places where, where there are moderate temperatures, so to say. Now let's go to the next point. To attend better schools or universities in other places. Yes, people will move from their places of origin to seek or to attend better schools, more especially for their children. It is a fact that you see the schools that are in towns have got maybe better resources for teaching and learning in the classroom. So that's why some people migrate. They migrate for their children, so that they've got a better future. About universities, you see, I'll make an example about myself. You see, I had to migrate from Mafuteni to stay at Walusen, because I had to attend lectures at the University of Swaziland there. So let's move on. To seek better standard of living for their families. It is a fact that some people will move to better, or to have a better standard of their living with their families. For example, sometimes people can move from Eswatini, I'll say maybe from Eswatini, Ebuga, let's say, and then go to live, let's say, at Beverly Hills, or let's say Tembelile. That is an upgrade. So when the people, when this family move from Ebuga to live at Beverly Hills, then they'll have a certain standard of living there that is better than the previous one. You see, levels. Now, to seek better medical care. Okay, sometimes you find that there are some diseases that are complicated, or that needs the person maybe to go to another country, like transplant, for example. It requires the person to move, let's say maybe to go to South Africa. On another note, you find that in that particular place, for example, you find that there are no clinics. When I grew up, there were places, there are places in which there were no clinics. So you find that these people are forced to migrate from this particular place to another place where there is a clinic, because of that, and people migrate for marriage. people migrate for marriage. This is to say, a woman, let's say, I'm making an example about a woman from Lavumisa or from Hlatikulu. When this woman gets married to a man, let's say maybe from Mafuteni, the woman automatically will have to migrate from her parental home to where her spouse is, to the home of the spouse. So that is a migration because of marriage, to spread religion. People move to spread religion. You remember, dear learners, we learned about, when we were learning about colonization, we learned that the British had to move or had to migrate from Britain to Eswatini because they wanted to spread the Christianity. You see, that is a migration on basis of religion. Now, on another point, to escape wars, political instability, and natural disasters like droughts. Sometimes people will move from their countries or places of origin because they're running away from wars. Then they move away for protection. I'm going to quickly show you this picture here again. You see, in this country, Syria, a country in Western Asia, there are wars there. The people are fighting. They are fighting because of the civil war there. And then these people here are refugees. They are moving away from Syria to seek protection in other countries, of course. Moving forward, good people at home, we're going to look at the effects of migration. How does migration affect the places of origin and the places of destination of these people? Okay, let's go ahead. Migration is an effect on the places the people living as in going, and also to the places where they migrate to, the places of destination. Like I said before, these are the places where the people are going to. Firstly, we are going to start about the effects in the rural areas where these people originate. There is decrease in population in rural areas. There is decrease in the population in rural areas. The decrease is caused because these people from the rural areas tend to move in large numbers to the urban areas. As a result, there's less people that are left behind there in the rural areas. That is an effect on its own. Going forward, we are going to look at the second point here. Only the old people and children will be left in the rural areas, as it is mainly the healthier and young people who are able to migrate. These young and able-bodied people who migrate to the cities most of the time, they will leave the elderly here and the children, and sometimes they don't come back. That is an effect on its own because the elderly, they tend to have difficulty in feeding themselves and these children because they don't have resources like money. Okay, now the decline in agricultural production. Another point, a decline in agricultural production as the old people fail to do cultivation effectively. Yes, these old people can try maybe to farm or to cultivate crops there, but because they are old, they tend not to do this effectively. As a result, there is a huge decline in agricultural production in the rural areas. Going forward, good people, we are going to look at another point here. Family breakdown, as one partner may move and never come back, leading to the breakdown of marriage for example, miners working in South Africa. This is true because you find that because of the distance, like we are saying, a miner will leave from Eswatini to South Africa, and then when this miner is there, sometimes he may not come back, but the wife is behind, and you find that this man will find they used to say there are cosas there. This man will find a cosa there or a soto there and marry, and then as a result, the family will break down because the man has gone for good. Even internal, even around Swaziland, you find that a man will leave his home, let's say in Mateta, and go to Matapa, and do not go back as expected, and as a result, because of the gap, you find that is a lot of things are happening there. As the spouse the spouse, either the male or the female, then will maybe commit adult, and then that lead to family breakdown. Could people allow me to go to continue the effects on the next slides? There is less development in the rural areas as more people, especially the younger ones, live to the urban areas. Could you put this point is clear and straightforward? Because if the young and the able-bodied people live for the urban areas, and then obviously there will be less development. There will be no action that is taking place in the rural areas. Now, going forward, we're going to look at the effects now to where these people are moving to, the places of destination. To where these people are moving to the places of destination. And because of the huge, of the large numbers of people moving to the cities, there is high rate of unemployment from where they are going to. There is also high crime rate. Also, people who migrate to other areas in search for employment may resort to crime in the absence of jobs. You find that these people, they're not at home. They decide to, because there are no means of living in the cities because of a high rate of unemployment. Then they do what is known as car hijacking. They also do robbery, like house robbery, and many more. Prostitution. This is a norm for young females who leave the rural areas with the hope to find jobs in the cities, that they resort to prostitution because of lack of unemployment, not just because they like that, but it is the situation. The circumstances force them to do this thing which is called prostitution. Let me quickly move to the next point. Also, the increase in the urban population lead to shortage of social services like schools and clinics. This is a fact because these places tends to be overcrowded. These places where these people are going to, there tends to be an influx of people there. As a result, then the resources that should be used by the people there, it becomes a problem because they become short. You find that in the schools, in the cities or towns, there are more children. There is overcrowdedness in the classrooms. Also, where these people should get medical attention, you find that there are long queues because there are more people now in that particular place. So, could people allow me to go forward to the conclusion now? In summary, dear Lena, at home, let us do the work below together. I'd like you to define migration, immigration, and immigration. Maybe I'll just talk about migration. Migration, we have said, it is the movement of people from one area to another area, or from a country to another country. you are also going to differentiate between internal, seasonal, and rural urban migration. Maybe let me remind you about internal and international migration. We have said, Yelena, that internal migration is the migration that happens within the country's borders. If you don't go out of the country, that's internal migration. While international migration is the migration in which an individual will go outside the borders of the country. I'm going to now, you at home now, we are going to state the 4 reasons why people migrate. I'm also going to give 3 effects of migration, and you are also going to discuss the effects of migration in the rural areas, or in the urban areas, where these people will move to. I hope learners at home, the lesson, there's something that you grabbed in this lesson. I hope to meet you next time. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for being with us today, Mr. Masego, right? And I'm sure that the grade 7s enjoyed their lesson. Up next is Nogwazi Dlamini, my colleague, who is going to be presenting the next subject, mathematics for Form 3s. So Form 3s, I hope you guys are ready to start learning.
Lona ngulezinkosi indvuna yetempilo. Lamuhla ngiyachubeka ngosata sibe sigeze tandla ngemanti lahlobile nesipho. Noma ngiyiphi isipho lekhona ekhaya. Geze tandla takho. Ngasho isitandla takho utigeza yonke indzawo. Wasule tandla bese uthatha lolo suka ngako uvale inkomo. Uhloba kwami impilo yami. Siyabonga.
Litiko letempilo kwesicwayisile ke ngesifo lesivelile kulamalanga i-coronavirus COVID-19 bagcizelela kakhulu ukuhlendeka kwetandla lokumcoka ukuthi itandla tigezwe nawugeza tandla ke bashilo ukuthi tigeze lokungenani ama seconds lam20 ngemanti lagijimako lanesipho. Lokunye ke lesixwayise ngako ukuthi latingalweni lingahlala leligciwane ukuthi ngakuthi letingalo nato utiwashe ungashinji itandla kuphela for 20 seconds nalamkhathini wetandla ugeze nakhona litawufa ligciwane kanjalo. Ngiyacela ma-loyal viewers geza intandla nihlale ekhaya nihlale niphephile sitayinqobe i-COVID-19.
Now, from the moment it was announced that there will be no sporting activities due to the ongoing COVID-19, we all felt that. But imagine how much work you can do in your house just using your chair. It could be anything you have in your house. Take a look at this. From my own chair, I'm able to exercise 30 minutes per day, from biceps to triceps to my abs. But what are you waiting for? It is doable, it is possible. I'm able to do all the work. No matter how much time it will take me, I will stay active. Now, if you're a soccer player, an athlete, a gym instructor, anyone who loves exercising, use this time. It is doable in the house, in your own time. Stay safe. Together, we'll win this war.
Imidlalo yonke imisiwe eveni. Hlala ekhaya utivikele kulesifo iCovid-19. Lokumcoka ukuthi uhlale ekhaya. Sitawudlala imidlalo uhulumende sekazivumile.
Kulesikhathi lapho khona umhlaba ula nemkhuhlane i-coronavirus, uhulumende kwakuleli ucele wona eMaswati ukuthi akahlale ekhaya alandele timiso nemihambo yenhlangano yomhlaba emhlabeni. kanike ngabe mbukeli ukuthi ngakala ukuthi uphume uye ekhaya ngoba ke uye emsebentini hlala ukufake i-face mask kanike ngabe kubita ukuthi ukhwehlelela emkhonweni sitawubonana mbukeli mayibuya tona temidlalo ngabe sitawulandzela tona tinqumo ta hulumende. Stay home, stay safe.
So lokukhutsatwa kona ukuthi hlala ekhaya uhlanzekile ugeze izandla.
Keep fit, stay home.
Ungayi ngaphandle kuyodlala imidlalo.
Hlala ugqoke i-face mask.
Kids, wash your hands so you can come in and have lunch.
Okay, Mom.
Tabo, apply some soap. You shouldn't just use water only.
But my hands aren't dirty, Nolwazi.
Just because your hands don't look dirty doesn't mean they're clean. We need to wash our hands regularly with soap and running water for at least 20 seconds, just like teacher taught us, so that all virus-causing germs and bacteria are washed away.
Tabo, listen to your sister, baby. It's important to always wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Like right now before we eat, after using the toilet, after touching animals, or after changing a nappy. We must also clean our surfaces and toilet seats with disinfectant.
Guys, it's time to wash our hands, wash our hands, wash our hands. Dirt and germs don't stain entrance, germs bye-bye. First the water, then the soap, and you scrub all your palms, scrub your fingers till they're clean, rinse and dry.
Guys, I'm home.
Welcome back, honey.
This is your 1 p.m. news update brought to you by Victor Silombo. In the news today, we'll speak a little bit more about COVID-19, a disease that's infectious and causing problems all over the world. COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by the coronavirus. The disease can spread from person to person through small droplets from the nose or mouth, which are spread when a person with COVID-19 coughs or exhales. These droplets land on objects and surfaces around the person, and other people then catch COVID-19 by touching these objects and surfaces, then touching their eyes, nose, or mouth. Here's a few simple precautions that you can follow to reduce your chances of being infected or spreading COVID-19. Regularly and thoroughly clean your hands with an alcohol-based hand rub or wash them with soap and water. Cover your mouth and nose with your flexed elbow or use a tissue when you cough or sneeze. Then dispose of that used tissue immediately in a dustbin. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Maintain a social distance of at least 1 meter between yourself and everyone else. Drink copious amounts of water to make sure your body is hydrated. And remember, if you develop a fever, a cough, or have difficulty breathing, call 977. Stay safe, stay home.
Kids, I hope you are listening carefully. It's very important that we take these precautions very seriously, so we all avoid catching or spreading COVID-19. So, we must stay home for our safety. Okay?
Yes, Dad.
A very warm welcome back to our viewers and good afternoon to those who have just joined us. You are still tuned into Eswatini TV and this is Home Study. My name is Nogwazi Dlamini and right now it's the Form 3's turn with mathematics, and already joining me in the studio is Mr. Kenneth Nzimanze, who is going to do the lesson for the Form 3's, and also joining me in the studio are our sign language interpreters Linda Mamba and Tobile Fabutse. Kenneth, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm very good, Nogwazi, and you?
I'm good, thank you. I understand that today we are doing construction loci. Did I say it right?
Yes, that's exactly how you should say.
All right, thank you. So what do you expect your Form 3 to have learned by the end of this lesson?
Well, by the end of today's lesson, I'm expecting my learners to have covered 5 areas.
Okay.
That is going to sound like a lot,
okay.
But you are going to realize that it's not too much because much of what they are expected to have done at the end of this lesson is something that they already have covered.
Okay.
Let me start at the very top, what we are expecting them to be able to do.
Okay.
They should be able to bisect a straight line.
Okay.
2, they should be able to bisect an angle.
Okay.
In both cases, they should be able to, they should be using their ruler and pair of compasses.
All right.
Then they should be able to use a set square to draw perpendicular lines. They should also be able to use the very same set square to draw parallel lines.
All right. Okay.
Then lastly, the 5th one is where they should be able to describe the locus of points whose positions satisfy a given condition, which means actually the one bit that they are going to find very interesting is the very last one.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. It does sound like a lot, but he said it's not a lot. So Form 3s, do not panic. I hope that you are ready. And just to remind the Form 3s, we are live on Facebook and on YouTube. And if you have any questions, please feel free to use our WhatsApp number. Mr. Nzimanze, I'll let you begin your lesson.
Thank you very much, Nogwasi. Okay, learners at home, this is what is expected of you. By now, you should know how to draw a straight line given a length. You should be able to measure a given length. You should be able to draw shapes that include triangles and quadrilaterals. You should also be able to use properly mathematical instruments. Let's get into the introduction, and we have to start off by looking at something that you already know: the distance of a point from a line. What do we mean by that? By that, we mean the shortest distance between the point and the line. By that, we mean the shortest distance between the point and the line. And obviously we know that it would be possible for you to have a distance like this, a distance from this point to that. Those are not the ones that we are looking at. Those are not the ones that we are interested in. We are interested in this one, which forms an angle of 90 with the line AB. So that point now is that, the distance is going to be that perpendicular distance. Now we look at the construction of triangles. In the case of triangles, you may be given something like, you see here, we are given the triangle is ABC. AB is 5, BAC is 47, and BC is 6. So let us see what we are going to have to do first of all. First of all, we have to see that our AB is 5. So I have used a grid to make sure that you can even count that actually we have how many divisions? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I just wanted to make sure everyone can see the 5 units that we are talking about. Next, what do? We put the angle of 47 degrees. And having put that angle of 47 degrees, we draw a line. Notice how the line is. It is a bit faint because at the moment we are not done. It's just a mark. We are showing where the line is going to be, but it is not the final line. Next, now we are trying to show, let me go back just to show, to recap that. Now I'm trying to show you BC. BC is supposed to be 6 centimeters. So what we do is we put our needle end of the compass here at B, and then we open it so that it is 6 centimeters long. and then from that position B, we are going to make an arc somewhere there, which is going to give you the length of 6 centimeters. Let us see what that looks like. So that is what it looks like. That's the arc I was talking about. And you still have that line over there, which is still faint. Why? Because we know where the line is going to be, but that is not the final line. Next, we place C. So, on placing C, this is what we are going to do. We are going to say that is where C is, and then we are going to complete our construction, putting in all the lines. So now what do we have? We started off with AB, and then we had this one, and then now we have this one. Our triangle is complete. Learners, you should always remember, leave all construction marks. The marks should always be there. Okay. Let's go on to the next slide. Now we are bisecting a line. Look at our line. It starts at A and it ends at B. It is a straight line. We are bisecting. How do we do that? We should have first, let's say we have the needle end of our compass. We open it so that actually it goes beyond the halfway mark. We make sure when we open our compass from B towards A, it goes beyond the halfway mark. In this case, it goes all the way to this part. And then we make this arc with the needle end of our compass here. And then with that measurement not being changed, we also make A our next station, where we are going to put the needle end of our pair of compasses, and we make this other arc, so that eventually you are going to have your A, B, and this arc. So you can see now these two arcs intersect somewhere there. So it means your perpendicular bisector is then going to be the line that joins these points where the two arcs intersect. So we have now bisected the line AB. Next, we bisect an angle. How do we bisect an angle? This is the starting point. We open. Let me start by showing you the angle that we are bisecting. The angle that we are bisecting, this is the angle in question. I'm going to make it neat very shortly. So that's the angle. So how do we do that? We take the needle end of our compass and put it at that point. Open it to make that arc. We strike and make that arc. We draw that arc. And then having done that, we open the compass now, but we place it here. Now we place it here and make this arc. Again, with the same opening, not having changed it, we place it there and make that arc, so that now it looks like what you have there. Now we concentrate on the intersection of the two arcs, and that is where our C is, and then we draw a straight line that goes through the intersection of the two arcs. So by so doing, we have now bisected an angle. Next, we want to draw a perpendicular line. A line that is perpendicular to this one, our AB. A line that is perpendicular to AB. What do we mean when we say it has to be perpendicular? We mean that it has to form an angle of 90 degrees. So at the end, it is going to look something like this, with Of course, I'm only indicating that this is 90 degrees, but it is going to look like that. Let us see how we go about doing that. So let us start. We have AB, and then next we place a ruler on the line AB. Of course, we call this a straight edge. In this case, we are using a ruler, but we are interested in the straight edge, that part of it. Okay, so we have our line AB and our straight edge. Next, what happens? Next, you place a set square so that it sits neatly on the ruler like that, the ruler, the straight edge. And then, of course, now that you have your ruler, and your your set square, you can now place a line like that, which we hope is going to be perpendicular. So let us see what happens next. Next, the line that I just put there is now here, as you can see. So the line is now there, the line that I drew up there. And then what do you need to do now? You simply need to extend it so that it touches the line. And it doesn't look that ugly. Mine is very ugly, so I'm going to remove it straight away. But you extend it so that it gives you something neat and which forms an angle of 90 degrees with that other line. So I'm failing to make the 90 degrees, but I hope you get my point. Okay, now let us move on to the next slide. Remember, here we were having a line, a straight line, and a perpendicular line of our making. So let us move on to the next slide, where we are supposed to construct a line that is parallel to a given line. Moreover, this line is supposed to go through a given point. So let's see what that looks like. Here is our line of interest. This is the line of interest, the reference point. Oh, no, let me not use reference point because you also have a point. Okay, so this is the line we are given, and this is the point that we want to use. How do we want to use this point? We want to draw a line that is going to be parallel to this one, but it should go through that point. Mine doesn't go through that point. That's why I'm going to teach you how to use your instruments to make it better than that. So let us see how you make it work. So here is your line, there is your point. Let us go. You start off by placing your ruler, your set square under that line like that, so that you can tell that if you were to slide it up, this up, it would reach that point. Then what do you do next? Next, let's see what happens. Next, you place your what? Your ruler firmly against this edge, as you can see. And then what happens next? Next, you slide your set square until it reaches the point P. Let's see what that is going to look like. That is what it is going to look like. Now that you have that, what do? You draw your straight line which goes through the point. That line is going to be parallel to this one, and it is going to go through that point. So let us see what it now looks like. It looks like that. Now you have your parallel line which goes through a given point. It's parallel to line AB. Moving on, remember, all of this is stuff that you are supposed to have covered. We look at a new word, locus. Locus is singular, the plural of which is loci. So when you are talking about locus, you are talking about a set. You are talking about a set of points that satisfy a set of given conditions. It's a set of points that satisfy a set of given conditions. Straight away, something that is going to jump at you is this word, equidistant. What does equidistant mean? Of course, you can already see that it looks familiar. You have equi there, as you do in, for instance, equilateral triangle. It has something to do with whatever you are talking about being equal. But you also have distant. So if you say equidistant, you already have the idea that you are talking about a distance that is equal something something. That is what it means. So we are going to look at what we are looking at, what we are supposed to be getting into here. So here are the types of loci that we can have. These are not the only ones. It's some of them. These are some of the loci we can have. We can have a situation where we have one fixed point, the locus of points which are equidistant from one fixed point. So we are saying you have this point. For instance, let's take this point. You have a point like this. Oh, my point is terrible. And then what do? You make sure that, for instance, you measure, let's say, 3 centimeters from that point, and you measure 3 centimeters from that point. You have another mark there, and another 3 centimeters like that. So all these marks, if they are 3 centimeters from that given point, that is what we are trying to say when we say you have one fixed point. So let us look at a better representation of what I'm talking about. Again, I have used the grid, not because the grid is a necessity, but because it was going to make it easier for you to work out the distances involved. You can see that this is 3 units long. So the 3 units is more like 3 centimeters in that direction, in that direction, in that direction, and in that direction. So now we have our point A and our other points. But it's supposed to be obvious that we could also place another point, maybe somewhere there, which is also 3 centimeters away from A. Another one this way, another one that way, and another one maybe that way, which would end up giving you something that looks like what I have here. But are these all the points you could come up with? Well, probably not. Let us see. Of course, you could have placed that. You could place another one there, another one there, another one there, all the way round. And you could divide that further into placing points even there, all the way, until you end up having something that looks like what you have here. And what do we have here? We have something that we refer to as the circumference. How do we define a circumference? We are talking about all these points being the same distance away from a center, which happens to be A. That point A is our center, and all of those points around there are the same distance away, and you get something that you call a circle, and in a circle this is the circumference. Now remember learners, we were looking at points which are the same distance away from a given point. Again, Now we are going to look at two fixed points. We have the locus of points which are a certain distance away from two fixed points. Let us see where that takes us. That is going to take us back to slide number 9. So this is A, this is B. I want you to look at this carefully. Look at what is happening here. We said at some point we would have a nice, oh, now it's not nice, a nice bisector, so which is supposed to go somewhere there. So this is nicer than the original one. It's still not perfect, but look at what happens here. We said we have 2 points, and then we are looking at a point that is the same distance away from the 2 points. This point here, which happens to be in the middle, is 3 units away from A. It is also 3 units away from B. How did we achieve that? By dividing this distance AB into 2 equal parts. Let us take another point. This one. What is so interesting about that one? Let us look at what happens here. What we have here is this situation. So how far is this point from A? I don't know how far it is from A, but we can see that it is the same distance from A as it is from B. We can continue. Let's look at this one. The same applies here. Here is the distance from there to there, and the distance from there to there. They are the same all the way. Even if we come this side, we could maybe pick this point, and we will say the distance of that point from A is the same as the distance of that same point from B. So, looking closely, we see that actually all the points that happen to fall on this line are such that they are the same distance from B as they are from A. So such a locus would be called what? The perpendicular bisector of AB. So let us see what we are looking at next. Suppose you had one fixed line, and then what else do you have? You have points which are always the same distance from that fixed line. Let's see what we are going to get. For that, we will go. Why is it not responding? So for that, we will go to, let me see. We are going to do the next slide, which is slide number 19. So let us take this one. Look at what is happening here. We are looking at the line AB, for instance, and we did use this point at one stage. So this is the point we used. But let us look at what is happening here. All these points here, there, all along that line are such that they are the same distance away from that line. Why are we saying they're the same distance away from that line? Because we said the distance of a point from a line is given by the perpendicular distance from that point to that line. So here now we have covered the locus of points which are the same distance from a given line, in this case AB. Obviously, we could have had the same points even this side of the line, and this one is going to make this one look even more interesting. because what I'm going to do next is to look at, suppose you have two straight lines now. You see, it's two straight lines. The two straight lines, you now are looking for a point that is the same distance from these two straight lines. Those points are obviously going to be points like those that you're going to find there, because as you can see, the distance of this point from there would be equal to the distance of that point from there. So having done that, I would say we have now covered 3 areas of the loci that we wanted to show when we left the very last slide. Except now we have to do one last one. We have to do one last one, and that is where you have points that are the same distance away from 2 lines which form an angle, and that one there, that one will come from this area. Now remember, we looked at them. So if we were to take this point or that point, we would have to measure that distance. It would be the same as that distance as well. So that is what we should have been able to master for today's lesson. Learners at home, thank you very much. I hope you did follow today's lesson.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. Just maybe a question from one of your students. They're asking if you could just show them again how to bisect an angle.
How to bisect an angle.
Just a quick
yes.
Yes.
Luckily for us, that is exactly where we are.
Okay.
So, but let me start off by maybe giving them a bit of a sketch. Let me see what it is going to look like. Right. So we are still doing AB. This is our O. This is the angle in question. So what we do is we place the compass, the needle end of the compass here, the pair of compasses, and then we open it and we strike and make an arc like this, which is what we have there. And then without closing that, what we do is we now take the very same end of the compass needle, put it there, make one arc, put it there, and make another arc. Where the 2 arcs intersect, we mark that point, and then we draw a straight line that goes through that point, and by so doing we have now bisected the angle.
Thank you very much, Kenneth. That was a very interesting lesson, and I hope the Form 3s learned a lot of, with that lesson. We hope to see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Form 3s, that was your mathematics lesson from Mr. Kenneth Nzimanze. Up next is Lerato Mabilisa with the literature in English teacher Tebenguni Ngumalo. We'll be right back after this.
Why is hand washing with soap effective against COVID-19? The coronavirus is too small to see, but is covered with little spikes that stick tightly to the natural greases on your skin. It gets on your skin by someone with COVID-19 coughing or sneezing nearby you, or by you touching an unclean surface where the virus can stay active for up to several days. But washing hands thoroughly with soap for 20 seconds is highly effective against the virus. Soap loosens the grip of the virus on the skin and destroys the outer layer of the virus, pulling it apart. This means the virus loses its power to infect people. Washing your hands well with soap means you can destroy or remove the virus and wash it away before it has the chance to infect you or your family. By washing hands with soap and water, people protect themselves, their loved ones, family, and the community. By acting together, we can help stop the spread of coronavirus.
COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a new coronavirus introduced to humans for the first time. It is spread from person to person, mainly through the droplets produced when an infected person speaks, coughs, or sneezes. These droplets can land in the mouths or noses of people who are nearby. These droplets are too heavy to travel far in the air. They only travel approximately 1 meter and quickly settle on surfaces. This is the reason person-to-person spread is happening mainly between close contacts. The exact time that the virus can survive on surfaces is not yet known. So it is wise to clean surfaces regularly, particularly in the vicinity of people infected with COVID-19. Hands touch many surfaces, which can be contaminated with the virus. You should therefore avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth, since contaminated hands can transfer the virus from the surface to yourself. When coughing or sneezing, cover your mouth and nose with the bend of your elbow or use a disposable tissue. If a tissue is used, discard it immediately into a closed bin. The most effective way to prevent the spread of the new coronavirus is to clean your hands frequently with an alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. This will eliminate the virus if it is on your hands. Stay healthy and prevent the spread of COVID-19.
Welcome back, learner. If you've just tuned in, we're still learning English literature with Miss Debengoni. Okay, we're not still learning, we've started learning Form 3 English literature with Miss Debengoni. Good afternoon and welcome, ma'am.
Afternoon, Lerato.
How are you doing today?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
I'm alright.
Yes.
So today's topic is traditional essays, if I'm correct. Please, can you tell us what would you like the viewer to have learned by the end of the lesson?
Okay, by the end of the lesson, I want the learners to have, to know how to respond to a traditional essay. That is the main objective.
Okay.
Yes.
Form 3s, it's going to be an interesting lesson indeed. So stay tuned as ma'am takes us on our English literature subject.
Thank you, Lerato. Good afternoon, learners at home. So today we'll be tackling traditional essays. So we will use the text, the PEL. We will be using the text, the PEL, in our discussion. So make sure that you have it at hand. Make sure that you have your textbook with you. The aim of the lesson is to assist learners to develop knowledge and skills that they need to demonstrate in their response to traditional essay examination questions, to encourage and assist learners to develop knowledge and skills that they need to demonstrate in their response to traditional essay questions. As you know, learners, that you will be sitting for your exam, so you need to know how to respond to the questions, and you need to know the type of questions that will be in the exam. So the objective of the lesson today, by the end of the lesson, you should be able to have a clear understanding of what a traditional essay is. Demonstrate clear and critical understanding of the traditional essay. Again, you have to be able to use knowledge of any text to respond precisely to traditional essay questions. So after this lesson, you should be able to tackle any any text that you are given or that you have studied with the knowledge or with the information that you will get today. And then the next objective of this lesson is to understand and interpret traditional essay questions. It is important to understand and also interpret traditional essay questions before responding to them. And again, you need to be acquainted to the key features of a successful and authentic response to a traditional essay task. You have to be acquainted with the key features of a successful or authentic response to a traditional essay task. The last objective is, finally, you need to respond effectively to traditional essay exam questions. So I hope we are clear on the objectives. We will start by looking at the description of a traditional essay. What is a traditional essay? This is the type of question that requires knowledge of the whole text. Knowledge of the whole text. If you want to respond effectively, you need to have knowledge of the whole text, meaning the books that you have studied. You need to know the whole book. You need to have read the whole. If it's a novel, read it from the beginning to the end for you to successfully respond to a traditional essay. And by so doing, we'll be attempting assessment objective 1, which says a learner must have a detailed knowledge of the literary text. You should have a detailed knowledge of the literary text. Here we will expect you as a learner to give examples, and so the detailed knowledge is needed. So we know that our 3 main forms are drama, poetry, and prose. So you have to have a detailed knowledge of the literary text before you will be able to respond to a traditional essay. So the assessment objective 1 pronounces that as a learner, you must have basic and clear understanding of the unfolding of the events, which is what we call the plot. You must know what event follows which one, which event follows which one. That is very important in responding to an essay question. This simply means you must have read the text, you must understand it, and then analyze it. To analyze is to break down. When you break down the question, for instance, to break down information into smaller chunks. That is what we mean by analyzing. So for you to successfully respond to a traditional essay, you need to read the text, understand the text, then analyze the text, break down the information. When you break down the information, for instance, you can look at characterization, look at the characters, look at the setting. That is breaking down the information or the text itself. Then a traditional essay also requires you to recall the events in the text. You have to remember which event follows which one, to recall the events as they unfold. Also, the traditional essay is also known as the thematic. It is the type of question which is thematic, meaning it deals with the themes of that particular text. The questions are based on the themes that the author has chosen in that particular text. So usually the traditional essay is the second question of each section in the exam paper. That is another way to identify the traditional essay. So I hope you now understand what a traditional essay is. Now let's move on. What makes a good traditional essay? A good traditional essay should sustain an insightful, convincing response. An insightful, convincing response, meaning you have to maintain, affirm, uphold, and see the validity of your claim. You have to have an insightful, convincing response, which means you have to maintain, affirm, uphold, and see the validity of your claim. That's what makes a good traditional essay. We will move on to the phrasing of a traditional essay, which is another way of identifying it in a question paper. We will find phrases like how far, to what extent, what feelings are evoked in you, explore the ways in which, for what reasons, in what ways. So it will depend on the theme that the question will be tackling, but the way it is phrased, it is this way: how far, to what extent, what feelings are evoked in you, explore the ways in which, for what reasons, in what ways. Now, let us move on to an example of a traditional essay question, and further we will look at an anticipated response. So the question here is our question. I will highlight it for you. Kino, this pearl is evil, says Joanna. How far do you agree with the statement made by Joanna? That is the question. So they have just extracted something that has been said by Joanna in the text, the pearl. Joanna once revealed that she is not pleased with the pearl. Kino, this pearl is evil, Joanna says. How far do you agree with the statement made by Joanna? This is a typical traditional essay question. So in this kind of a question, you are going to agree. You are going to agree with Joanna to a certain extent and also disagree with Joanna. So it's more of an argumentative type of question. You are going to agree with Joanna to a certain extent and you are going to disagree with Joanna. Remember, there's always two sides to a coin. So you are expected to discuss both sides. Note the word expected there. Note, you are expected, it's an expectation. So even if you want to disagree with the statement, but you are expected to discuss both sides. So you have to agree and disagree, meaning you have to present both sides and then take your stand, which is what I will discuss next. A good respondent will then draw a conclusion after the argument has been made. After giving us the two sides, then you draw or make your own conclusion. Pick a side that you find very convincing for you now. Remember, an argument is not really that you are fighting with the person. It's just a difference of opinion. So a good argument will present both the good and the bad, and then you bring a conclusion or you take a side. That is what an argument is. So an example of a traditional essay when you conclude now, these are the phrases or words that you can use. On the other hand, however, as much as I agree with Joanna, I also realize that, but then, in conclusion, I am fully convinced that then you can add your own. But these are the phrases that we expect to find as you respond to the traditional essay. Now, let us analyze the question. I hope you still remember the question. Kino, the pill is evil, says Joanna. How far do you agree with this statement? So, when you analyze, you unpack each and every phrase or word, which we call the key words or the key features in a question. So here are the key features in this question. The first thing that we need to address, or you need to address in your response, is the pill is evil. Cite things that make the pill to be evil, that makes it appear evil in the story. That is why it is important to have knowledge of the whole text, because you will have to cite reasons why you say the pill is evil. Then, how far do you agree? So it could be either you don't agree or you agree, but how far? Then, why would you say it is evil at the same time? So if you have said why would you say it is not evil at the same time? So the pill is evil, but what other things, what makes the pill not to be evil? You need to address that in your discussion. What is your conclusion? We need you to conclude. We need you to take a side at the end of it all. That is how you analyze the question. You unpack. You need to unpack the question so that every part of the question is addressed. If you don't analyze the question, you might leave out important information. Let's move on now. Let's gather information now about the pearl. Information about the pearl. What is a pearl? A pearl is a beautiful gemstone taken from oysters. It is very valuable. Being in possession of it means that you are rich. That is what the pearl is. Oh, yes. So in the story now, we move to the story. Kino, who is one of the characters, has found a valuable gem, the pearl, and everyone is aware that Kino is now rich. Having studied the text, you know that Kino was poor, but his life changed the day he got the pearl. How is the pearl evil? You have to gather information. What have you read in the text that makes the pearl to be evil? So after getting the pearl, Kino is subjected to one attack after another. And then immediately after the first attack, Joanna sees that the pearl is evil. She makes Kino aware. If you read chapter 1 of the pearl, of the text, the pearl, you'll find that Kino and Joanna lived harmoniously. They never argued. They never spoke. They hardly spoke. But after they get the pearl, they start having conversations that cause strife between each other. So she no longer wants the pearl. We know, or I should remind you, that it was important for Joanna and Kino to get the pearl because they needed their son Koyotito to be seen by a doctor, and they needed money to pay the doctor. So they were desperate for money. And to then find Joanna saying she no longer wants the pill, could strike an argument or strife between them. She even attempts, remember, I was still looking at how the pill is evil. She even attempts to throw it back to the sea, but unfortunately is caught by Kino and is given a beating. Now Kino becomes violent to his wife. Remember, they lived a harmonious life. They live harmoniously before having the pill. But now that they have the pill, they are arguing. Now Kino beats his wife. And that is the information that we can gather about the pill being evil. Now let's look at reasons that would bring, or we would say the pill is, what good can the pill bring? Kino, unlike Joanna, sees a bright future in the pill. He feels that the pill will bring a bright future. And it is not only for himself as an individual. So he was selfless when looking at what the value that the pill would bring to their family. It was not a selfish one, because we note that the first thing he thought about his family, the family. He thinks about new clothes for Joanna, a wedding in the church, which was quite prestigious because they were so poor they couldn't afford to marry in church. So now Kino, because he will have money, he thinks of marrying Joanna in church just to make a noble woman of her. And also he looks at the fact that Coyotito will get an education. So the education part will help free Kino and his people from bondage of ignorance. We know that they were not educated, so they were ripped off of many things by people who came to their land. So if one of them is educated, then it means they are free. They'll be free from that kind of bondage. And then being taken advantage of by the doctor. The doctor refuses to, when Coyotito is stung by the scorpion, the doctor refuses to treat Coyotito because he knew that Kino would not be able to pay him because he was poor. So not only would the pill bring a bright future to Kino's family, but will also help his people. I hope that is clear. So Kino was not selfish but selfless. So these are good attributes that we would bring out about the pill, which are quite admirable. So Kino sees no evil but a bright future after the challenges, like Joanna was so worried about the pill, looking at the fact that they are now arguing, they are now he's now violent. So yes, is the pill evil, as Joanna says? Let's look at these points now to see whether the pill is actually evil or not. 1, the pill brought evil thoughts to the priest. The priest expects Kino to pay the church. He's expecting money from Kino. Now that Kino has money, he goes to visit him. He even visits him when it is getting dark, which suggests the evil intention that he had. He comes when it is dark. The doctor also visits Kino. Remember earlier, the Kino had gone to the doctor to ask the doctor to treat Coyotito after he was stung by the scorpion. And then the doctor refused to treat to treat Coyotito. But now, after learning that Kino has the pearl, he goes to visit Kino and Joanna. And he even claims that they are his patients, that he is treating Coyotito. So he's only there for selfish reasons. Remember, we're looking at the fact that is the pearl evil? Attacks on Kino's family. After receiving the pearl, Kino and his family is attacked. Lerato has a question.
Ma'am, the learner, or rather the viewer at home, has a question for you, which says, when responding to the traditional essay questions, are we allowed to answer by saying, I strongly believe, that as an opening sentence?
Yes, you can, because it is, you have to take a side. So at some point in your response, you can use that phrase.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. You can continue with the lesson.
Thank you. Let's move on now. We're still looking at what makes the pearl to be evil in Joanna's eyes. Kino is now beating Joanna. Arguments between Kino and Joanna. Kino at some point kills a man. Remember when Joanna takes the pearl to throw it back into the sea, the Kino followed her, and on their way back they were attacked by a man, and Kino ended up killing that man. So that is being evil. We know it's not good to kill people. And at some point their house is burnt because they now resent Kino for having gotten the pearl. They want the pearl for themselves. They were selfish people who wanted the pearl for themselves, and they ended up burning Kino's house. And they destroyed his canoe. The canoe was a very valuable asset to Kino's family, and it was destroyed. And then you can add more points, but we can see that from these points, the pearl looks like it has brought evil to Kino and Joanna's life. Now, what makes the pearl not to be evil? The pearl comes as an answer to Joanna's prayers to save Coyotito. We know that the Coyotito needed to be treated of the scorpion sting, and they needed to pay the doctor. So they were praying that Kino gets the pearl when he dived into the sea, and her prayers were answered, and they could pay the doctor now because they would have the money to pay him. Now, another argument that you can raise is that it was said by the beggars that the doctor is evil. He's evil. It's not because Kino has the pearl. He's just an evil man. His character is just, he's an evil man. And also the pearl buyers are also evil people. They cheated the pearl. They cheated the people who the Kino's people, and so you can't claim that they are. You can't claim that they are evil because of the presence of the pearl. And also, Kino's dreams were good and noble, so that's what makes the pearl not to be evil. So, our conclusion now. In your conclusion, you can say, indeed, the pearl is evil. at the end, Kino sees that the pill is evil because it leads to Koyotito's death. The one thing that aspired or inspired Kino to sell the pill was so that Koyotito gets an education. His people are saved from ignorance and bondage. But now, Koyotito, who is their savior in a way, is killed. And then, in such questions, at times there are at times where one side would be more dominant than the other. We can't argue that Koyotito's death now just spells it out that the pearl is evil. So Kino eventually throws the pearl after he is convinced that the pearl is evil. So now we have dissected the question. We have analyzed the question. Now you can write the essay. I will just briefly, my time is against me. I will briefly state how to write the essay. A balanced paragraph should consist of the following. You have to echo the question. So you'll say, I feel that the pill is evil, and then you make a claim after that. Echo the question, give evidence or give an example of the claim you have made. Explain your example by linking it to the question that you are given. Prove beyond any reasonable doubt that your claim is indeed true. And then you give a personal response. That is the conclusion that we were discussing earlier, by telling us what you think, your opinion, and how you feel about the point that you have made. So I hope you have gathered information that will help you as you respond to traditional essays. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am, for today's lesson, and thank you, viewer, for watching. And I hope that the lesson was very beneficial to you, and thank you very much for participating as well. Up next is my colleague Nogwazi Dlamini, who is going to be presenting the next Form 5 lessons, which are biology and physics. So Form 5, stay back as Nogwazi takes you through with the teachers.
Bekunene live laseswatini liyatimbazakanya nemkhankaso welitiko letempilo namhlabuhlangene i-World Health Organization wekugcina tandla tihlantekile ngaso sonke isikhathi kuvikela kulomkhuhlane lokhona we-corona virus. Tiningi ke tindlela longatisebentisa kutivikela kuleli gciwane le-corona virus. Yinye yato lencomekako ukuthi uyisebentise ngaso sonke isikhathi kugeza tandla ngemanti lahlobile lahambako, uphindze usebentise insipho ngaso sonke isikhathi. Uthathe isikhathi lesinganga 20 seconds kuya ku 40 seconds solo utigezisisa le tandla, noma ke usebentise isanitizer nangabe emanti angekho dutane nawe. Litiko letempilo likanye namhlabuhlangene liluleka kakhulu sive ukuthi silandzele nati tinyathelo kuze ukuthi tandla tihlale tigcinekile tihlobile ngaso sonke isikhathi. Kumele umandise tandla takho ngemanti lahambako, ushikishe insipho etandleni takho. Yenda siciniseko sekuthi ushikisha totimbili tandla ngalokwanele. Sandla sekudla sishikishe ngetulu kwesandla sesencele. Naso sesencele sishikishe sandla sesekudla. Utisebentise totimbili tandla kuze kuthi ugezeke kahle ngalokuphelele. Ushikishe insipho emkhathini wemino yakho netandla totimbili. Uchubeke ushikishe ngemuva kweminwe yakho kuto totimbili tandla. Chubeka ushikishe tithupha totimbili shengathi uyatishwila. Usebenzise iminwe yakho lesonzelene. Shikisha sandla emkhathini. Kubomake noma ke labo labanetingalo letinze kufanele bashikishe letingalo kuze kuthi emagciwane langabe ahleti khona nawo akhone kugezeka kahle ngalokuphelele. Utiyakade tandla ngemanti lahambako, tesule tome tandla ngethishu noma ke ngendvangu lehlobile. Uphinze usebenzise ithishu noma indvangu kuvala impompi. Yenda siqiniseko sekulahla ithishu enzaweni lapho ingeke kube lula khona ukuthi umuntu ayithinze. Nawe ungahlala unetandla letihlobile njalo njalo. Nginxusa onke emaswati ukuthi asukumele etulu. Sihlanganyele kulomkhankaso wekugcina tandla tihlantekile kuze kuthi sitawuvikela lesifo singasingeni kalula sisive. Siphinze sikhutsate bekunene ukuthi nebantwana labancane basitakale basitwe ngilabadzala ukuthi bagezisise tandla tabo tihlale tihlobile. Lokho kube ngumsebenzi wabo labadzala ukuhlala bahlobise abantwana babagezisise tandla kuze kuthi kungabi lula ukuthi bantwana bangenwe ngulomkhuhlane we-coronavirus. Kuhloba kwami yimpilo yami. Siyabonga.
Welcome back to our viewers and a very good afternoon to those who have just joined us. I am Nogwazi Dlamini and you are still tuned into Eswatini TV and this is Home Study. Right now it's the Form 5's turn and we are doing biology, and already joining me in the studio is Mr. Mduduzi Gininza. Also joining me in the studio is our sign language interpreter Zanele Motsa. So how are you doing today?
Good afternoon, Nogwazi. I'm okay, and you?
I'm good, but why do you sound like you're not okay?
No, I'm okay. I'm very much healthy.
Where's the energy today?
You have to instill it to me.
I think I just did. We need the energy.
Thank you. That's great.
I understand that today we're doing biodiversity.
Yes, that's very
So what do you expect your learners to have learned by the end of this lesson?
Okay, my rationale, first of all, is that we need to appreciate the importance of nature, how nature is important to us. We also need to understand the role played by game reserves.
Okay.
Yes, because we have a lot of game reserves, even here in Swaziland, in
Yes.
Eswatini. So we need to understand how actually do they help in preserving certain species for us, which are beneficial to us.
All right. Mr. Chi, it sounds like a very interesting
Very
subject.
nice one.
May I please have a lot of energy? I'm
you.
looking forward to this lesson right now, and I hope the Form 5s are actually looking forward to this lesson as well. And just to remind the Form 5s, we are live on YouTube and on Facebook. And please, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask on our WhatsApp number that pops up from time to time. Mr. G, you can start your lesson.
Okay, thanks, Nogwazi. Good afternoon, learners at home. Mr. G is here to help you understand nature today. Let's rush through the objectives together. They are expected to define biodiversity, discuss its importance, discuss the threats to biodiversity, and we'll go get into pollution, define pollution. We'll also describe the undesirable effects of water pollution by sewage and chemical waste. Also air pollution by a gas we refer to as sulfur dioxide. We'll also be expected to describe how endangered species can be conserved. Okay, let's rush to our next slide. First of all, let's start by defining biodiversity. It is the existence of many different species of what? All living organisms, that is plants and animals, in where? In an environment, and differences within species. Okay? Let's understand that organisms have differences in what? In characteristics, that is genetic variation within a species and even between the species. Different environments have what? Different varieties of species. Hence, biodiversity tells us what? The numbers and variety of living organisms. Let's continue to our next slide. So we'll deal with the importance of biodiversity, as in my introduction I've explained. There are two forms to touch here. It is the medicinal purpose and the ecological purpose. Let's rush to the medicinal purpose. Currently, the world over is engulfed with a very, very problematic disease, which we refer to as coronavirus. Medicinally, doctors are trying to get a cure. So, in the process, some parts of plants and animals can be used to cure such, what I'm talking about, coronavirus, cure cancer, cure malaria. These are global epidemics that are causing problems to us as living organisms. An example of those particular plants that can help us is what? Artemisia afra, which I'm sure once I mention this name at home, people are familiar with it. Currently, it is more popular. Umhlonyana. The leaves of umhlonyana can be used or are used for treating. Currently, they are used for treating cough, colds, fever, loss of appetite, headache, intestinal worms to malaria. That is a very important function of umhlonyana. I hope you are familiar with it, learners at home, and you understand today the importance of it. And you have a lot of stories about it, I know. Let's continue. We also have aloe maculate, which is helping us treating ulcers. Okay, let's rush to our next slide. Let's continue with the ecological role of biodiversity. All species, all of them, provide some kind of what? Function to an ecosystem. They can capture and store energy. They produce what? Organic material. I will explain later more of this. They help decompose organic material. You can find maybe a dog by the side of the road dead. Maybe it has been hit by a car. But later we will never find it. Everything is decomposed. That's what the function of biodiversity. Help cycle water and nutrients. Control erosion and pests. Also fix or what? Balance atmospheric what? Gases. And regulate climate. Okay. What are the threats to biodiversity? Something that I've explained that it is very, very important to us. But there are threats. It is under threat as a result of us humans. A lot of activity that we carry on the land. The main dangers worldwide are population growth. If you can go to Manzini, to Mbabane, if the government can say now there's no lockdown, hey, you can see people cramming there. That is population growth. And resource consumption. Because once you have a lot of people, you have to make sure that they are provided with food, with houses, etc., etc. Also climate change and global warming. I will elaborate later on that one. Soil erosion, very, very important aspect. Very, very important aspect. Invasive alien species. Another interesting one, which I know here in Eswatini, you know a lot about it. Scientific name for it is Cromolina odorata. In Siswati, it is Sanda Nezwe. Very problematic. Also, over exploitation of natural resources, and lastly, pollution. Okay. Population growth and resource consumption. I've already said, as you have a lot of people, you have to convert wildlife habitat into agricultural land and urban land, because you have to provide food for the people. You have to provide food for the people. You have to also accommodate these people. Also, because of that, will produce waste that will do what? Pollute habitat and poison wildlife. Very interesting. I hope people, learners at home, are learning, and will take care of yourself and take care of the environment later. Every day in life, anyway, not even later. Global warming. What is global warming? Global warming, a gradual increase in overall temperature. An increase, please note that one. A gradual increase in overall temperature of the Earth's atmosphere. You can note, learners at home, that after the news in the afternoon, you will hear those who are presenting the news telling us now that it's time for them to tell us what will be the temperature the following day. You will hear them saying 13 to 25, 20 or to 30, etc. But in some instances, you will be surprised to note that we can even reach 40 or above. That is very, very dangerous to us. So global warming is very, very dangerous. Caused by increase, what causes that? Increase in levels of what? Carbon dioxide and chlorofluorocarbons. Chlorofluorocarbons. This is very problematic, because you'll find people buying sprays in shops to go and spray themselves. If you buy that particular product and it is not written chlorofluorocarbon free, please leave it there. It is dangerous in the atmosphere. Effects of global warming are floods. If I can ask you, Nogwazi, please help me. Have you ever watched the movie called Titanic?
Yes, many times.
Many times.
Yes.
What caused the ship to sink?
An iceberg.
An iceberg. That's so fantastic. Yes. In the sea, we have ice caps. Then, because of global warming, these ice caps will melt, raising the sea level. Hence, a problem of floods will occur. Also, global warming results in change of weather patterns, which will result in droughts. Currently, we are in the winter season. Unfortunately, we know that in Siswati, April is referred to as Mabasa, meaning winter is expected to start in April. Unfortunately, the whole of April, we've been having rains. It was a little bit cold. It has just started now to be cold. So that is an effect of global warming. Okay, the next one. Alien invasive species. As I've given an example earlier on of Chromolonia or odorata, which is referred to as Sandonosa, taking over land that might be used for cultivation. A lot of farmers in Eswatini have been complaining about this effect. They have been complaining that there is no more space for cultivating their land. So no place to plow crops. I can see learners at home are following. Hence, Nowazi wants me to pause to get a question. Let's go to Nowazi.
Yes, I think me and you need a little bit of a water break. I don't know if you mind if you
That
can just
would be
take.
nice. I have it with me here. I'll be happy.
All right. Okay. Viewers at home, please, can you just give us a little bit of a break? We just need a little bit of water. We'll be right back after this.
When we talk of screening, basically, this is a preventative measure of finding out if there's any problem that may present as a result. So when you screen, you're trying to find out whether it exists or not, the problem. So in our case, the idea of screening is to ensure that everyone does not present with high temperature. So anyone who's presenting with higher temperature than usual is then picked up. And then from then on, you'll then be tested to make sure that you have the virus or not. That is the main difference.
Eswatini sibambisene kulwa nekwanza kuligciwane le-corona.
A lovely water break we have just had with Mr. Kininza. I think without wasting any time, I'll let you carry on with your class.
Thank you, Nogwazi. Okay, before we go for break, I was explaining the effects of the alien invasive species. First of all, these are species that are not native to that particular country, are exported. I've already given an example of Chromolina odorata, which is referred to as Sandanezwe, which is problematic to Eswatini farmers. By taking over land that might be cultivated, currently we know that even the government in the Kingdom of Eswatini has involved companies to go outside there, try to cut this alien species, which is causing a very big problem to farming. Also causing diseases. When an alien species is causing a disease, then there will be a problem because certain issues are not known about it. Acting as what? Predators and parasites. Also involving competition for nutrients. Once it is there, other plants won't be able to get the nutrients in the soil. Hence, the problem of alien species will make the other plants, not grow very well because of the competition. Also, altering habitats. Okay, let's go to the next one. Soil erosion, a very big problem too. What is soil erosion? It is the washing away of the topsoil, either by water or wind. This will result to unsuitable soil for what? Plant growth. Also results to what? Desertification. Hence affect what? Livestock, as what's going to happen when it is a desert, a poor vegetation, hence it cannot support many animals. Okay. Pollution, a very interesting subtopic for today. Pollution. Let's define it first. It is the build-up of substances such as what? Chemicals which damage our environment. Again, due to our human activities. There are types of pollution that I will deal with. Air pollution, water pollution, land pollution, nuclear fallout, and noise pollution. Before I go to the next slide, let me shortly discuss noise pollution. How does it actually affect biodiversity? Let me give an example about frogs. How frogs reproduce. When frogs are reproducing, the males always crow. Usually at night we'll hear a lot of noise about frogs crowing. As they are crowing, the females one are listening to the nice voice. They are listening to the nice voice. As it keeps on crowing, the female will then go to the one which has got a very nice voice, and then they will mate. Take into account a situation whereby in that country there's a lot of noise. The frogs can't hear each other. Hence the population of frogs, the frogs are very important in biodiversity for the ecosystem. Then now the population will be affected. There will be no food for birds that eat frogs. Also frogs eat certain insects that are a problem to us. So the biodiversity will be affected. Let us go to the next slide. Water pollution. Very important aspect, especially these days we have to wash our hands with water day in, day out. Water pollution, an undesirable change in physical, chemical and biological property of water that makes it unfit for human use is referred to as water pollution. How is it happening? by sewage and chemical waste. Sewage waste, water from domestic, commercial, industrial sources. What does it do? It encourages growth of bacteria that feed on what? Organic matter. Also, microbes use up what? A very important gas for us, oxygen, and aquatic animals need it. Oxygen deficiency will lead to killing fishes and what? Small invertebrates. Okay. Air pollution. Sulfur dioxide is released. Sulfur dioxide, a very gas that is found in fossil fuels. Once it is released into the atmosphere, it causes a problem. It causes damage to plant leaves. It causes what? Acidification of water bodies. It is an irritant and causes what? Discomfort when breathed in. It will end up triggering asthma and bronchitis in humans. Okay. Pollution due to pesticides. What are pesticides? These are chemicals used to kill what? Insects. Like dichlorophenyl diphenyl chloroethane, DDT. They are sprayed on crops, may spread to the atmosphere on land, may be washed by rain into rivers and water bodies where they may be consumed. Once they are inside water, they will be consumed by living organisms in water which are aquatic. DDT is very dangerous because it completely does not break down easily. So due to its non-biodegradable nature, it has been banned in other countries. It is no more used. Pollution due to herbicides. What are herbicides? Let's start there. These are chemicals that are used to kill weeds in crops, fields. Also, they are also sprayed on crops, some onto air, causing what? Air pollution. May be harmful for farmers and other animals. May destroy aquatic animals if they can find themselves in water. Okay. Pollution due to nuclear fallout. What is it? First of all, I'm sorry, learners, this one you can't see it clearly, but I will try to explain. It is the radioactive material introduced into the atmosphere. Okay. Radioactive material introduced into the atmosphere following a nuclear what? Explosion or a leakage. Human produced radiation comes from testing and use of what? Nuclear weapons. Remember, there was once a world war whereby nuclear weapons were used. They are no more used now, and there is no world war now. And leakages from nuclear reactors. Certain atoms are unstable, and in the process will release alpha, beta, and what? Gamma rays. The radiations may lead to what? A very dangerous chronic disease, cancer. Also mutations, which may lead to birth defects. Radiation sickness, where so many cells will become damaged and that individual will die. Okay, let's go to our next slide, learners at home. The causes and effects of acid rain. The causes: rain normally has a pH of 5.5. It is slightly acidic due to carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and nitrogen oxide that dissolve in it. Sulfur dioxide is produced when combustion of what? Fossil fuels containing it are combusted. Also from car exhaust and fumes release what? Nitrogen dioxide and carbon monoxide or carbon monoxide. These cause acid rain. What are the effects of acid rain? It will damage plant leaves, acidification of what? Water bodies, corrosion of stone and roof work on buildings. It will also dissolve what aluminium compounds, which further acidify water bodies, which will become toxic to living organisms inside water. What are the measures that can be taken to reduce effects of acid rain? Obvious, the first one, just regulate sulfur producing industries. We have heard now certain types of petrol are being used. Using some scrubbers in power stations, chimneys, to remove what? Sulfur dioxide. Use of what? Catalytic converters in car exhaust, which will help convert the nitrogen to harmless nitrogen. There's an interesting term, eutrophication. As farmers, we have our crops, we have to provide the necessary nutrients for the crops to grow. Hence, we'll apply a lot of manure, lot of fertilizer, etc., etc. When those mineral ions leach into rivers and lakes, there's an effect onto the plants that grow inside water. As the nitrates rise, algae reproduce rapidly using what? The nitrates that has leached into the river. Okay? Algae prevents light from the sun to penetrate into the water. Hence, the submerged plants cannot do what? The very important process of photosynthesis. And hence, they will die. In the process, a certain type of bacteria, aerobic bacteria, will decay the plants in the process using more oxygen. Once there is no oxygen in the water, or less oxygen in the water, the animals there, the aquatic animals, will suffocate because of insufficient oxygen. The last subtopic, conservation. What is conservation? Conservation, conserve, just to keep. Keeping the environment and natural resources in a healthy state in order to maintain what we've been talking about, biodiversity, because we have already learned us that it is very, very important. I'm left with 5 minutes. I need to bind everything up here. That is keeping the environment and natural resources in a healthy state in order to maintain what? Biodiversity. So sustainable development, you are expected to define this one. Learners at home, make sure you know it. The development providing for the needs of an increasing what? Human population without harming the environment. Need to conserve non-renewable resources, natural resources such as what? Fossil fuels. When a car is moving, it burns the petrol and the gas goes up to the air. It is non-renewable. Good. Some products can be used, e.g. paper, glass, plastics. We've seen during the trade fair some mothers or parents coming with mats, wallpapers, etc. A lot of things. They have reused what was used before. How to conserve endangered species. Many species of plants and animals are in danger of what? Extinction. That is meaning they will never be there again because of habitat destruction. Introduction of other species like the sandanezwe, international trade and pollution, and loss of genetic variability. Okay, we need to have methods as a country to conserve a lot of species for future generation. We have our envelope, government, it is written, the soil is our greatest asset, help conserve it. So what are the methods? Creation of what? Conservation parks. They must be protected from human impact. Animals are bred in captivity where they can be protected. Offsprings reintroduced to the wild in conservation parks. Plants are also bred in nurseries, then planted in conservation parks. In Eswatini, we have national parks, Mkhaya Mlilwane, marine parks, botanical gardens, zoological garden, seed banks. Thanks for listening, learners at home. I'm sorry today I was a little bit fast because of time constraints. I was trying to cover everything. I'm happy you were there. I hope we are preparing your questions. Make sure you always follow the program at Eswatini TV as we have the program Home Learning. God bless you all.
Thank you, Mr. Kininza. A very interesting lesson that was, and I hope we will see you again for another biology lesson.
I'm always available for our...
All right, from fives, please do not go anywhere. Up next is physics with Mr. Mfanbela Mkonda. He'll be right back with me right after this.
Nebekunene sibhekene nemkhuhlane lo matima kakhulu umkhuhlane we-COVID-19. Sisesikhatsini lapha wonke umuntu ufuneka atibuke yena ngokuthi ufuna kuphila yini noma ufuna kwentani. Uma ngabe ufuna kuphila kufuneka asukume aticabangele abone ukuthi yini lokufuneka yente. Sitamtshela ke thina ukuthi yini lokufuneka yente. Kufuneka ente lokushiwo nguhulumende la ku abambisene nelitiko letempilo la kamhlabuhlangene i-World Health Organization ukuthi bantu abahlale ekhaya phuma endlini nangabe kukhona sidzingo lesimatima lesingetulu kwemandla longeke usichubele embili sidzingo lesifana nokuthi sowuphuthuma kudokotela so sidzingo sokuthi mhlambe sekuphelene kudla endlini so ungakhona kuphuma ngaphandle kwaloko hlala endlini. Kwesibili sithi eMaswati akasite asebente indzaba yokuthi njalo nawuvuka ugeze tandla uchubeko nawusasebenza ugeze tandla ngesipho nemanti lahambako. Lokhu basitshela ukuthi kutawusita lempilo yokuthi legciwane lingakhoni ukuthuthuka liye embili ngoba lihanjiswa ngumuntu alindize emoyeni lihanjiswa ngumuntu. Lokunye ngilokuhlala bucamama kunalomunye umuntu ube bucala nje ungahlali edudane nalomunye ngoba bathi liyathathelwana ngaleyo ndlela. Kufana nalabo laba banathe ebhodleleni linye. Mhlambe ngabe ninatha leso sinatho senu lesitawugcina sinijabulisa kanti sinibhekise kunibulaleni akume lokho bekunene ngoba lokho kutazivetela tingoti. Lokunye lesikushoko ngikuthi ungayi lapha kunesicumbi khona ngoba ngilapha eticunjini lapha abantu batawuthola kona lo mkhuhlane bathelele labanye. Uhulumende ke solo wasebenta kuvikela sive nyalo sowufake indzaba yokuthi kube netimfonyo lesetifakwa kona uphuma endlini nangabe sikhona isidingo sokuthi usuke ekhaya kakho uye noma nguphi faka leso simfonyo kepha ungaseboleki lomunye umuntu noma ngabe umthanza kanganani noma ngabe usihlobo lesinjani na ungaboleki umuntu lomunye sifonyo lo sifakile wena ngoba awati ukuthi unani kungenteka bese uyamthelela noma ngabe bowati kepha nje akufanele kwebolekwa netimfonyo.
Eswatini sibambisene kulwa nekwanza kuligciwane lecorona.
Ligciwane lecorona lincane kakhulu. Angeke ulibone ngemehlo enyama. Kuze liphile lidzinga kunamathela kubantu. Leli gciwane lingena melula emphumulweni, emlonyeni kanye nasemehlweni. Ligciwane lecorona alikhethi. Lingesuka kithi thine bantfwana liye kubatali kanye nabothishela. Lisengesuka kubo litekithi. Indlela yekulimisa leli gciwane kulivimba ukuthi lisuke kulomunye liye kulomunye. Uma umuntu athimula noma akhwehlela leli gciwane lihamba kanye nalamathonsi laphuma kuloyo muntu. Uma uthinta lapho athimulele noma akhwehlelele khona, uyalibutha leli gciwane. Uma ke uthinta impumulo, umlomo noma emehlo, livele lingene kuwe. Ngakho ke umthetho wokuqala, umthetho lomkhulu. Geza tandla takho ngemanti lagijimako nangensipho njalo njalo. Uma uthimula, thimulela engcoseni yakho. Ungaqala ufake imino empumulweni. Dikhweshise kulabanye bantfu ngesigaba lesiyimitha. Kepha lokusebenta kangcono kakhulu, uhlale ekhaya. Uma sihlala emakhaya, leli gciwane alikhoni kuhamba.
Eswatini sibambisene kulwa nekwanza kuligciwane lecorona.
COVID-19 Corona. COVID-19 Corona. COVID-19 Corona. COVID-19 Corona.
Welcome back to our viewers. If you have just joined us, a very good afternoon to you. And the question is, where have you been? If you're in Form 5, I am Nogwazi Dlamini, and you are still tuned into Eswatini TV, and this is Home Study. And right now it's the Form 5's turn. We are with Mfanbela Mkonda right now, and it's physics time. How are you doing, Mr. Mkonda?
Nogwazi, I'm good. How are you?
I am great, actually. I understand that today is a continuation on the topic nuclear and atomic physics.
Yes, we are completing that part we started in the previous lesson.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there anything that you want your learner to have learned by the end of this lesson?
Yeah, thank you. We will also need some other things that we are going to use. Maybe I could start with that before I forget.
Okay.
You'll definitely need our periodic table. We will also need calculators. Those guys who like mathematics, I think they're saying yes.
Okay.
We'll be doing some calculations in this
Right.
topic. Actually, we will cover quite a lot of things in today's lesson.
Okay.
And most of the things are a continuation on what we did the other time. So
Okay.
we are actually looking at things that make the atomic physics very important.
Okay.
So we're thinking of things like the use of the atomic physics in medicine, for instance, in your chemotherapy. We are thinking of killing of cancer cells. We are thinking of carbon dating, where they are using archaeology. So it's quite a lot of interesting things that we're going to be covering.
Right.
in
Sounds
today's
very sounds very, very interesting indeed. From Vibes, I hope that you are ready for this lesson. Mr. Mkonda, without wasting any time, please start your lesson.
Thank you very much, Nogwazi, and welcome the learner at home. Let's just quickly start on our objectives. Today we want to cover the following. We are going to be looking at the use of equations to represent changes in composition of the nucleus during a radioactive decay, which we talked about in the previous lesson. There's another term that we want to look at, an interesting concept which is called half-life. So we want to be able to define half-life. So we're going to be able to define half-life. We'll also use this idea of half-life in simple calculations, like I said before. Those guys with maths are saying, good, we'll be doing some calculations. So we'll be using some calculations, will involve tables, will involve some curves and some equations as well. So your calculator would be very handy. So you must have your calculator with you as well as your periodic table. We want to look at how radioactive materials are handled. Mind you, these radioactive materials are kind of dangerous, so we need some special ways of handling them. Let's move on with our topic. We're looking at radioactive decay. Now we just remind ourselves what we have covered before, that when radioactive elements emit radioactive emissions, we say they're undergoing a radioactive decay. We're emphasizing that point because we'll be talking about that a lot in today's lesson. Now, a radioactive element can decay by emitting alpha particles. They can also emit beta particles from its nucleus. When a radioactive element decays by emitting either the alpha or the beta particle, now let's note this one, a new nuclide is formed. Can I make an emphasis on this one? We're saying when a radioactive element decays by emitting either the alpha or the beta particle, a new nuclide is formed. Now we're getting interested in this new nuclide that is formed. How is it formed, and so on. Let's start by looking at the alpha decay. So in the alpha decay, when there's a radioactive emission that is going on and an alpha particle is emitted, we said there's a new nuclide that is formed. So how is it formed? We're saying the radioactive element emits an alpha particle. We have 2 protons, so where we have 2 protons and 2 neutrons. Now a new nuclide is formed. And what is this new nuclide that is formed? Let us look at it from what I've got here. Now we have the original nuclide, which is going to be called the parent nuclide. We have the atomic mass and the atomic number there. Now it will decay, emitting the alpha particle there. Now there's going to be a new nuclide that is formed, which is referred to as the daughter nuclide. Now how is it going to be? Look at this. The alpha particle, which is referred to as the helium, which is the helium-4 nuclide, has an atomic mass of 4 and an atomic number of 2. So when this parent nuclide decay, it will form a new nuclide, which would be your original atomic mass minus 4, so that when we add these two, we get the original one there. Then we're also going to have your atomic number, which is Z subtract 2. So the new nuclide that is going to be formed will be your A minus 4 here, and then your Z minus 2. So that is the general form of the equation that we are going to be getting there. Now let's just remind ourselves again that the alpha particle can be represented in this way. Now let's just take an example. Now let's look at the decay of uranium-238. Uranium-238 decays there. Now a periodic table will also be of help here, so let's have those things next to us. Now we're looking at uranium-238 with an atomic number of 238 and an atomic mass of 238, excuse me, and an atomic number of 92. It decays to form a new nuclide plus the helium atom there, or the alpha particle. So now we're having your 238. Let's follow the math there. We're having your 238. The 238 must come from the atomic mass of the daughter nuclide plus the atomic mass of the alpha particle. So we're having 238 here. So we're going to have the 238 must come from these 2 here, which is going to give us our 238 minus 4. So the 238 there, you subtract the 4. It's going to give you 234. Hence, we will have 234. So that when you get 234 plus 4, you are going to get your 238. I hope we follow that one. Now in the atomic number, we're having a 92 as the original number. So we're having a 92 there as our original number. And then we should be having the 92 resulting from these 2 here. So it means now we're going to have your 92 subtract the 2. So that you're now going to have 90 plus 2, which gives you your 92. Hence, we are going to have the new situation looking like this. So we're going to have your 238, uranium-238, forming thorium-234 plus the alpha particle. Now when uranium-238 decays by emitting alpha particle, the thorium-238 is produced. Can we take a note on this one? The mass of the mass and the atomic number must balance on each side of the equation. Hence we are getting our 238, which comes from 234 plus 4, and the 92, which comes from the 90 plus 2. We were looking forward to yet another example there. Write the nuclear equation for the decay of plutonium-239, excuse me, by emission of an alpha particle. Now let's get going there. So we're saying we have the plutonium. This is plutonium-239. Now it's going to decay, so we want to see what is formed there. Now it decays by emitting the alpha a particle there. So we know this is going to be 42. I think we still remember that one. Now we are looking for these numbers that were here. Now we have 239 here. So what we need there, we're going to look at your periodic table to find out what we have there. It's going to be 94. So plutonium 23994 decays there. Now this is going to give us 239 minus that 4, so that we could get this one, which is going to be 235. Then the atomic number there is going to be 94 minus 2, which is going to give us 92. So we are getting this a new nuclide there. Now we can find this from the periodic table. Now if you check from the periodic table, you will notice that it's going to give you uranium 235. So the situation will be like this, as we have seen. I hope, Lena at home, you are following what is going on there. You are enjoying the beauty of physics, as we always say. Now let us look at the beta decay. The beta decay. Beta particle are high electrons, high-speed electrons. Now we are going to have them represented by either this symbol or the symbol of the electron. They are emitted by isotopes that have too many neutrons. One of these neutrons decay into a proton and an electron. The proton remains in the nucleus, but the electron is emitted as a beta particle. So again, we want to look at the general way of analyzing this. So again, going to follow the same pattern that we followed the other side there. So we're going to have the parent, and then we're going to have the daughter, and then we're going to have the beta particle there. So in this case, since the beta particle has an atomic mass of 0 and an atomic number of -1, it means this one is going to be your Z plus 1, so that it gives you your Z, and this one is going to be remaining as A. Let's just quickly go to an example. If you look at the decay of carbon-14, so if you have carbon-14, 6 there, then we are going to have the carbon-14 decaying to the daughter nucleide there. So we're going to maintain the 14 because of that 0. Now how do we get to this one? Now we need to be careful of the mathematics there. This number here must be 1 greater than that, because now we are subtracting a 1. This now usually gives us a problem. So I'm supposed to have 7 here minus 1, which gives you the 6. So when carbon-14 decays by emitting a beta particle, nitrogen-14 is produced. And I want us to take this note. The beta particle, being negatively charged, has an effective atomic number of -1. Let's take more examples. Write the nuclear equation for decay of sodium-23. So we're having sodium-23. We're going to have sodium-23. Check your periodic table. We are going to have 11 there. And then we're going to have the daughter. And then we're going to have the beta particle with your 0 and your -1. Now this will remain 23. And this will be 12. Now if you check from your periodic table, what are we going to get there? Look at your periodic table. That is going to give you magnesium-23. So that is how the process goes. I hope we are following there. There are more examples that I would want you to go on. Maybe if you could just quickly try those examples, but I'm just going to look at this last one here. So we have the nitrogen there. Then we have the daughter that we're looking for. And then what should be here? Because of the 0, -1, it's going to be the beta particle. Now what are we going to have here? We're going to check this from the periodic table. But here we're also going to have nitrogen-16. And if you look at your periodic table, you will notice that this one will give you oxygen-16-8. You can also look at the others there. We still want to look at more of this, the things that we have there. Now the radioactivity and half-life. Now this radioactivity we're talking about, how is it detected? The radioactivity is detected using some instruments. There's 2 instruments that we're going to look at today. Is what we refer to as the cloud chamber and the Geiger-Müller counter. Now I have a diagram of the Geiger-Müller counter in front of me. So the Geiger-Müller counter is going to just detect the radiations and give them in terms of numbers. There's going to be a counter that is going to give the numbers there. Now how does it work? Just a brief explanation. The Geiger-Müller counter, it has a tube that contains either helium, neon or argon gas, and this is at low pressure. Now when the radiation enters the tube, it ionizes this gas in the tube, and this gas in the tube produces ions which trigger an electrical impulse. So this electrical impulse that is triggered there, now it's going to be recorded in the counter as a value. So if it is analog, you're going to see the counter with an arrow showing there. If it is digital, it will have some numbers inside there. So that is how the Geiger-Müller counter works. Now we also have what we call the cloud chamber. That's another one. The cloud chamber also detects the radiation. Now in the cloud chamber we have a gadget like this one. So we have a sealed gadget, as we can see. So we're having a sealed gadget there. Now what's happening is we are going to be having some alcohol vapor, which is in the compartment there. Then we are going to have the radioactive source, which is emitting the radiations. Now what would be happening there is we are going to be having the alcohol vapor inside there. So we're going to be having the alcohol vapor all inside there. Now this radiation is going to be there. So we're going to have the radiation. Now when these radiations hit against the alcohol vapor, what happens is the alcohol vapor is ionized. And when it is ionized, it will now display itself in a certain pattern. It might show some streaks of lines, and these lines will show depending on what is the radiation. Let us just look at that. If this radiation that is ionizing the alcohol vapor is alpha, you are going to have thick and straight tracks. Now why is it so? Since the alpha particles, since the alpha particles are heavy and they are more ionizing, so it's going to show a clearly defined pattern of lines there. Now if what ionizes the alcohol particles, the alcohol vapor there, happens to be the beta particle, what we're going to have is a thin and crooked tracks. Now why is it so? It's since the particles are light and less ionizing. And finally, if it is the gamma ray, we won't see any tracks because it is even far less ionizing and very light. Instead, one is asking, why are we seeing this? These are caused by the electrons which have absorbed some energy. So in the cloud chamber, you can see the difference. So it can tell you what you've got, whether it's alpha, beta, or gamma. Whereas in your Geiger-Müller, it just shows you that there are some radiations. Another interesting fact that we want to look at, the activity of a radioactive source is equal to the number of decays per second, and that is measured in becquerels. That's just for interest, whereby 1 becquerel is 1 decay per second. Half-life. What is half-life? The activity of a radioactive sample decreases over time. The half-life, let's just get this because we'll be using this throughout. I want to take it slow. The half-life of a radioactive sample is the average time taken for a radioactive sample to decay to half its original mass. And keep this in mind because through our calculations we'll be using this definition. So it's the average time, so it is measured in units of time. It is average time taken by a radioactive sample to decay to half its original mass. We'll unpack that as we move along. So if it is a unit of time, it can be in years, days, hours, and so on. Let me just give you some typical examples. Please don't memorize these, just for you to understand and appreciate what we're talking about today. Uranium-238 can take about 4,500 million years to decay to half its original amount. Uranium-235, 704 million years. That is why those atomic bombs there that were thrown some years back, the effects are still there because of the half-life. Those things are still radiating up to now. Plutonium-239, you have the 24,100 years. Carbon-14, 5,600, which helps people in archaeology to be able to study those ancient animals because the carbon is going to stay long in the soil. Let's just look at an example that would be showing us a short period of time. Radon-224, it's just 60 seconds. If you look at iodine will take about 8 days. That is why when they are treating maybe goiter, they can inject you with the iodine to fight those cancerous cells, and 8 days is not a very long time. It can stay in the body. Maybe you'll be admitted in hospital for 8 days. But if we were to use this one for 60 seconds, as soon as it's injected in the body, it's all gone. If you use this one for years, it means this thing is going to be in your body forever. Now let's get to some calculations. Please get the idea of the definition, because we'll be using the definition there. At 10 a.m. in the morning, a radioactive sample of 80 grams of radioactive isotope. If the isotope has a half-life of 20 minutes, calculate the mass of the isotope remaining at 11 a.m. We're starting at 10 a.m. and we're stopping at 11 a.m. So how much time are we taking? We're taking 60 minutes. Why am I going for minutes? Because the half-life is given in minutes. So we're taking, this thing will be taking place in 60 minutes. Now, how many half-lives do we have here? Each half-life is 20 minutes, so we're going to have 60 divided by 20. So we're going to have 3 half-lives. I think you note that one. So we're going to be having 3 half-lives. So we have 3 half-lives there. Now let's go. Go to definition. Please remember the definition. Time taken for a sample to decay to half its original amount. Let's go. I have a sample of 80 grams. The time taken for 80 to decay to half its original amount, I'm going to multiply it by half. So that is, I'm going to get now 40. I think you agree with me. But this 40 still has to decay because there are 3 half-lives. So this is the first half-life. Now we're going to get the second half-life. Now we multiply this by half again. It means now we're going to be remaining with 20. Now this 20 still has to decay. So now we're going to have 20 times half. And then mathematics gives us 10 grams. So it means the sample that is going to remain is 10 grams. We also have some questions there which I would just quickly go through. This one, calculate the half-life. Now we're calculating the half-life of a radioactive isotope source which is decreasing from 24 to 6 over a period of 60 days. We don't know the half-life there. So we start by looking at the definition. Time taken to decay to half the original amount. We start with 24 times half, we get 12 grams. That is the first half-life. 12 grams times half, it gives us 6 grams. We stop because that is where we want to go. So there are 2 half-lives. Now when are these 2 half-lives happening? They're happening in 60 days. What does it mean? It means we have 60 days divided by 2 half-lives. So each half-life is 30 days. I think you've followed that one there. That was by definition. Now let us look at it from mathematics. Now if we're looking at it from mathematics, what we're going to have is an equation. So I want us to look at this equation here. So let us follow through the equation. Our equation is as follows. So we have NT, which is the new amount, the amount after T, which is the time taken. This is NO, which is the original amount, times half to the power N. N is the number of half-lives that occurred in T over T half. So then how many half-lives have occurred? Half-life itself is represented as T subscript half. Then T is the time taken. How much time has been taken there? Then we have also said NT is the new, and then this one is the original. Let's go back to the examples that we worked, but now let us work them by formulae. 10 to 11, that is 60 minutes. So it gives us 60 divided by 20 because we have 20 minutes as the half-life. So it means there are 3 half-lives there. So it means our N is equal to 3. Is that okay? Now the equation is going to be, so we have our N being equal to 3. So in this case, we have N is equal to 3. Let us keep it there. Our equation is the new amount. And here we are looking at the new amount. So the new amount that we're looking for is going to be equal to the original amount. The original amount is 80 times half to the power 3. Now if you look at this, you are going to have the new amount is going to be equal to 80 over 2 to the power 3. Those guys who mathematics are agreeing with me. I say, yes, teacher. So I'm saying 80 over 2 to the power 3. And that is going to give us 80 over 8. And the answer is going to give us 10 as we got it from the other side there. So we can use even your mathematics there. Let's take the second one. Calculate the half-life of a radioactive isotope. The mass decreases from, that is the original, to, that is the new, over a period of 60 days. This is the time, not the half-life. Now let us look at that. We're looking for the half-life now. So we're going to have the original is 24. Excuse me. Let's go back. It's the new. The new is 6. Now it is the original multiplied by half to the power n, which is the number of half-lives. Now if you look at this, it's going to give you 6 is equal to 24 over 2 to the n. Now we don't know n, so what are we going to be looking at there? Let me just create some space there. I'm not that much blessed with space in my slide. So if 6 is equal to 24 over, then by mathematics we are going to bring the 2 to the power n there, multiplied by 6, that's going to give you your 24. Now if you divide by 6, you divide by 6, so you are going to get your 2 to the power n is equal to, this is going to give you 4. Now if you look at 2 to the power n and this one, if you express 4, it base 2, it's going to give you 2 to the power 2. Hence, n is equal to 2. Now it means the number of half-lives are 2. Now what is a half-life? It's going to be your 60 divided by 2, which is going to give you your 30. You will forgive me for the mess that I've created there. Otherwise, that is how we go about there. But there are other ways of calculating half-life. So half-life can be calculated it can be defined the following. It is the activity of the source in terms of the activity of the source. So the half-life of a radioactive source is the average time taken for the activity to decrease to half its value. Now we're talking about activity, yet in the other one we're talking about the mass. There's another way of defining this. The half-life is the average time of that takes half the nuclei. So we can also define it in terms of nuclei. So in this case, if you look at this example, now the example is just giving us in terms of nuclei. So you can use formula, you can also use definition to find the answer. In the interest of time, I would want to look at yet another way of calculating the half-life. Again, I want to emphasize, dear learner, stick to the definition. If things go wrong, just go to the definition. It will help you to do your calculations. So by definition, half-life is the time taken for the original amount to decay to half its value. So if you start looking at the graph, you start with 500. Now you look for the half of 500. Half of 500 is 250. So it means we started here, now we are there. So we're looking at time at 500, it is 0 seconds. Now time at 250, it is 30. So the half-life is the time taken for this to decay from original to half. Hence the half-life can be obtained from there. Quick one. So with this one, again, you take 600 as your original, half is 300. If you start at 10, then the half is at 30. So you are now going to have your 30 minus 10, and the half-life is going to give you approximately 20 seconds. You can also use the table. The table, you look for the number and half the number, which is 330. You throw out the table. So in this one, we're moving from 0 to 2, excuse me. We are moving from 0 to 2. So the half-life there is 2, but you don't just do 1. You do more than 1 to check on that. Now we're coming to the end of our lesson. We're saying this ionizing, this radioactivity is a dangerous thing, so we need to be able to handle it. So it must be handled with care. Now the problem is we want to minimize our exposure. So we're trying to minimize our exposure like we're doing today, this coronavirus that is attacking us. We try as much as possible to minimize the exposure. So to minimize the exposure, these must be stored in lead-lined containers. They must be handled for the minimum possible time, and they must be handled only with tongs. So that is how our nuclear physics goes. I hope we followed through. Now we finished the whole topic on nuclear physics. Nogwas, I hope you were following through and you're enjoying and you admiring the beauty of physics.
Yes, you remember the conversations I had with you about physics. I'll just tell you that. Thank you very much, Mr. Mkonda, and I hope that the Form 5s they learned actually on this lesson, and we hope to see you again for another interesting physics lesson.
Yes, physics is always interesting.
Thank you very much. Form 5s, unfortunately, that was the last lesson for the day, but do not go anywhere. Lerato and myself will be right back after this.
Wash hands now. Wash hands now. Wash hands now. Hand washing is one of the best ways to keep from getting sick and staying healthy all the year long.
Welcome back to our viewers. Unfortunately, that was the last lesson for the day. Lerato, how was the day for you?
Well, my day was fantastic today. I learned a lot, especially in English literature about the pearls and everything. It was very interesting today. How was your day?
My day was really, really good. I think I enjoyed biology the most today. It was one interesting subject. That actually interesting topic to to learn today. Yeah,
okay.
It was really interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Viewer, just a reminder about our social media platforms. We have YouTube and Facebook, where we're live from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. And we also have a WhatsApp number which pops up from time to time on your screens when we are live. On your screens. Okay,
that is true. And I would like to remind our viewers actually about tomorrow's timetable. So grade 7s, Form 3s and Form 5s, this is how the timetable looks like for tomorrow. From 2 p.m. until 2:30 p.m. we have grade 7s mathematics. Then we have additional mathematics for Form 3 from 2:30 p.m. until 3:08 p.m. Then we have Eswatini for Form 3 from 3:08 p.m. to 3:45 p.m. Then from 3:45 p.m. to 4:25 p.m. we have chemistry for Form 5. Then the last subject for the day is mathematics for Form 5, which is from 4:25 p.m. until 5 p.m. So as always, it's a jam-packed day of learning. Actually, we hope that you will be ready for that day. Lerato, anything you would like to say?
No, just accept that grade 7s, Form 3s and Form 5s, I hope that you're ready for tomorrow's lessons. And from me and the team, goodbye.
Bye!